No. Yes. Yes. No. Yes.
Hello, you lovely lot, and a warm welcome to the 10 o'clock news from the EV Café, brought to you this week by those yellow superheroes, the AA. I'm John Curtis, and joined today by our special reporters, Sam, Paul, and Sarah. The same Sarah Sloman who spent until midnight, and I quote, with a back-end provider. Apparently it's something to do with IT, but it means something very different where I'm from. So anyway, grab a cuppa and plug into the latest in clean transport and sustainability news. Not very clean, clearly. We'll look at stories including Ford pulls its belt in tight. Going slow saves lives. Zooks, yes, that's a name. London are tired of rubber debris. Do you see what I did there? And vans, because Paul's here. 70% of van drivers want electric. What's wrong with the other 30%? Are they mad? Anyway, we start with something a little more sobering. Ford is cutting 1 in 5 jobs in the UK over the next 3 years as part of a major restructuring programme across Europe. The majority of the 1,300 job losses in the UK will be felt at Ford's research site at Dunton in Essex, with 1,000 roles in product development being cut. Some 300 back office posts will also be lost in the UK, but it's understood that production sites at Halewood, Dagenham and Daventry will not be affected. Some 3,800 jobs are being lost in Europe. Tim Slatter, chairman of Ford of Britain, said that Europe was facing a pretty difficult economic situation with an uncertain outlook. All the usual excuses: higher inflation, higher interest rates, the ongoing war in Ukraine, cost of energy, and so on. Yeah, okay. However, he said that wasn't the only factors. The manufacturing is shrinking its portfolio as it switches to an all-electric car lineup by 2030. And as a result, believes it will require fewer product development staff. That's got to be rubbish, surely. What do you reckon, people? Fewer product development people? Seriously, Paul, you're smiling wryly.
No, do you know what? We were celebrating the fact that Ford, had committed to Halewood and in the not too distant past, and that was all good news. And I don't know. It frustrates me because there's so much development and so much opportunity within the electric vehicle world. The new product coming and all the changes that are due to be happening for having an electric platform for every vehicle. It just feels like a bit of a kick in the goolies, quite honestly, especially for the people at Ford at Dunton, and really sorry to hear for you guys.
Yeah, my dog's absolutely furious about it, as you can probably hear. Yes, Sam.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, on the other side of the coin, I just want to point out that let's not forget we've had a global pandemic. We've had wars. We've had the high inflation, interest rates. These are not small things, and they affect everybody. There's a huge hangover from the pandemic. We're still trying to claw that back. It's incredibly difficult for everybody at every level, whether you're a low-income owner that's struggling to heat or eat, or you're a multi-billion-pound OEM that's trying to cut the costs because they're losing money. All I'm saying is, it can't always be rosy all the time, and everyone has to suffer sometimes. And this is part of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, we may see it being a lull for like 2 or 3 years if they've already worked on the development to a point where they're now going to roll out, because it's a sort of 2-year cycle, a lot of these manufacturing drives. So I think maybe a couple of years from now they might revamp, but if they didn't, like Sam says, maybe they would have had to have done worse.
My issue here is that R&D is absolutely critical as we move into a new stage of transport, and it's very easy to cut R&D now, but you will pay the price in the future, and it might be a short-term pain that will have a long-term pain because it's very, very here and now. It's a typical response to any catastrophe. Let's get rid of all those discretionary areas like training, like product and development, and that's got to be a mistake. Anyway, that's just my view. Thank you, Sam, for having an alternative view. Other views are available, and mine is not the one that rules. Some better news. Collisions resulting in death or serious injury decreased by a quarter after speed limits were lowered in London, new data suggests. The decline was recorded at sites monitored on the Transport for London road network, where the speed limit's been reduced to 20 miles an hour. The TfL figures also show that collisions involving vulnerable road users decreased by more than a third, 36%. Lowering speed limits is a key part of the Mayor's Vision Zero goal to eliminate death and serious injury from London's transport network and to enable more walking and cycling in the capital. Interestingly, analysis of journey times, traffic flows and speed suggests that the 20 mile an hour speed limit has not increased congestion, according to TfL. Now then, Sarah, you're a big walking, cycling kind of person. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I am. And I'm also a big fan of data. So we did this in Bristol, I didn't, but the amazing team in Bristol did. 20 is plenty, because there were studies to show that people walking and cycling would be keeping up with the flow of the traffic. And if you reduce everyone to 20, it ebbs things a little easier so people can cross better as well. So it's better for everyone. But the main reason was to cut pollution before the clean air zone came. So 20 is plenty became like a school only area. And then that just spread to neighbourhoods, spread to the wider city. So yeah, it's great to see London following rather than leading for once.
Right, Zooks. Oh, now then, hang on. Let's go to the people. Let's go to the people. Ben McDonald.
Good comment from Ben.
I wonder if they should increase the speed for e-bikes to match the speed on local roads.
It's so frustrating when it cuts out 15 miles an hour. I can cycle at 20 normally on a normal bike. So when you're on an e-bike, it's just irritating.
You can, but you're
exactly
a freak. Most people can't go that far.
No, but not like 30 miles an hour, but 20 would be I would be really supportive of that, or 17 or something, not like 14.9.
Right, let's have a quick run through of who's here. Tell us where you're from. Michael Barton from Bristol, bless your heart. Varun Gandhi. Oh, love him, hug him, squeeze him. We mentioned Ben, Daryl Sharp. Sarah Sloman, get off. Leah Wright, Sarah McKeer, Michael Anderson, Paul Kirby. What? Darren Anvona. Trisha Murray, Trisha, hello, Sarah Kennel, Linda Grave, Leon Gomez. Oh my Lord, Daryl Sharp. We are not making these names up. They're real human beings. Bless you for joining us. Anyway, let's move on. Zooks Incorporated, the self-driving startup owned by Amazon.com, carried passengers in its fully autonomous vehicle on public roads for the first time. And every time we see an autonomous vehicle now, we have to say, Zooks!
Zooks!
Gadzooks!
Gadzooks indeed. Last week, the electric vehicle, which doesn't have a steering wheel, ran a mile-long route carrying staff between Zooks' two main buildings in Foster City, California. The company said in a statement, the firm will now operate a shuttle for employees on the same trip whilst it seeks additional clearances to expand its service to the public. Zooks' driverless testing permit, which has held since September 2020, was extended by California to include the purpose-built robo-taxi. It's currently been limited to a fleet of retrofitted petrol-powered cars that carry sensors powering the self-driving technology. So soon going to be battery electric. There are others. General Motors have got the Cruise robotaxis, and they've received permission from California as well to test its own Origin shuttle on the state's public roads. They haven't done so yet. I wonder how long it's going to be before we start seeing these things in the UK. I know that the UK government have said that by 2025, they anticipate that we will have self-driving taxis, and they put £100 million behind it, and they say it will create 38,000 jobs. Paul, is this a good thing? And does this possibly mean the end of van drivers as we know it? Because ultimately, if you can have taxi drivers autonomous, then you can have van drivers that are autonomous.
Absolutely, and I'm not excited about the proposition, but I do recognise that this is definitely happening. It's been tested in London in vans, Maxus. There's a number of e-delivered 3 Maxus vans, electric vans, running around with all the cameras and kit on. And there's other companies, a company in Coventry, Origo, who are developing sort of passenger transport stuff. This is going to happen. Autonomous vehicles will almost certainly happen. How limited it is, I don't know, but certainly the commercial vehicle sector desperate for drivers, particularly in the heavier end. And if we can make those autonomous, that could be a real game changer for businesses and make life a little bit easier for the transport industry, certainly.
Yeah, cool. Sam, autonomous vehicles, where are you on this? Because you always have a different view on everything.
No, I love them. I love them, and I love them because I've got a biased interest because I'm a great fan of Street Drone, an Oxford-based autonomous vehicle company that's working a lot in the commercial sector at the moment. So, and I'm only doing that because I think it's the right thing to do. I think driving a Tesla starts to give you a bit of a flavour of what the future is going to be like, because it already helps you drive down the roads, as you know, today in the vehicle that I drive. But I think the likes of Amazon doing it's great because they can afford to invest in this innovation when it's not commercially viable yet, but they can afford to do that, so that's good. I think it probably remains niche for a little while, but in the background, I think there's an awful lot of work will continue. We're not going to see the DPD van driving itself down the road to deliver my Amazon parcel anytime soon, but I suspect that is ultimately where we'll end up in the future. And whilst that might be the loss of a driving job, it'll be the benefit of 30, 40 other engineers that have got a job developing this technology going forward. So I think it's a redistribution of people, like Ford, I suppose. It'll be a redistribution of people into other higher profile sectors rather than just a loss of jobs. So it's all coming, Sarah, I think. It's exciting.
Yeah, I was just itching to say exactly that. Like, I've got some driver friends who couldn't wait to get off the driving bit and more into the sort of management structure. So I really like the idea of autonomous in sort of dry side activities, be it airports or ports, for example, where they would normally be buzzing about as people driving things. What's the point if you can do it autonomously, safely with an electric powered vehicle? Then that person can be upskilled and deployed elsewhere with any luck on the same infrastructure. So yeah, exciting. I put a comment there about Holland's been doing it for ages, and I was asked to just step in front of it just to see if it would stop, and it absolutely did. I jumped, in fact. So yeah, it was really exciting.
Okay, I can feel a competition coming on. In the comments, we have Rod Kirkpatrick has put in a comment. He's just told us who he is and where he's from. And this is a tongue twister, which I'd like you all to try. Okay. Rod Kirkpatrick from Eclectic Electric. That is outstanding. Yeah. Right, okay. So Rod Kirkpatrick from Eclectic Electric. Sam, go.
Rock.
Done. Paul.
He's
on mute. He's on mute.
That's most excellent. That's the best thing you said all day. Sarah, go.
Rod Kirkpatrick from Eclectic Electric. Damn it! Boo and his.
No, I'm the only one who can do it. Thank you kindly. Now yes, then, tyres designed specifically for electric vehicles have been proven to reduce particulate matter by up to 35% in a trial sponsored by Transport for London. Now, Sam, you're a big fan of Enzo, aren't you? Enzo took part in real-world trials conducted as part of the TfL Freight Lab Innovation Challenge. Its tyres outperform standard fit tyres for reducing emissions and also improved energy efficiency by up to 10%. Results from the Freight Lab trial show that EVs wear tyres at a faster rate than internal combustion engine counterparts. Now that's interesting. I assume that's due to the weight. So you have a much greater weight in an EV because of the battery pack and all that stuff than you do in an internal combustion engine vehicle, but higher debris levels. During the 15-month trial, vehicles from participating fleets were monitored every 6 weeks for total tyre mass loss against the miles driven, measuring total tyre emissions in grams per kilometre. And the vehicles operated by DPD and Royal Mail and included the EMV 200, that's a van, Paul, and the Peugeot Partner, that's also a van, Paul. The new Euro 7 emission standard for vehicle manufacturers will be introduced from 2025 and will include a minimum standard for tyre PM emissions, particulate matter emissions, for the first time. That's great news. Paul, can you speak?
I can. Sorry, I was on mute because I was trying to deal with a little background issue that was going on. Anyway, yes, no, I think it is good news. And I mean, Euro 7 is going to be a challenge. So it's great to hear companies like Enso out there looking to help support meet that really critical need. And it's one of the areas that we get challenged about, isn't it? Oh, the emissions of an electric vehicle, the tires are worse and all the brakes are worse. All not true, of course. But, you know, the fact that, once again, this transition is driving innovation in other sectors, other areas to support that electrification process is amazing. Well done, Enzo.
Yeah, and just to pick that up, Paul, the debris from electric vehicle tyres is worse because of the weight. So Enso have done something here which is really quite remarkable, and I guess other manufacturers are going to have to follow suit. Sam?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things there. Firstly, a bit like total cost of ownership, you've got to look at fuel and for leasing. the vehicle. In this emissions world, you've got to look at the tyres and the brake dust as well, because they're two major emitters of particulates. So whilst you might have a potentially higher degradation on one, it would mitigate it significantly by the other. So you've got to look at it in concurrently. The other thing is, this is the first time for a while I've seen the TfL Freight Lab Innovation Challenge mentioned publicly. Well, I was actually on the judging panel for that, and I helped decide who got the money. And I couldn't vote for Enso because I had a vested interest, because I was working alongside them. But they were one of the highest scoring in the entire competition. And it's great to see that they've started to get some of this information out into the public domain, because it's the next emissions challenge is tyres and brakes, because they'll never go away. They're the same in internal combustions as they are in electric. When there's no exhaust pipes, that's the next major emission that we've got to tackle. So the fact that Enso and G, the owner of Enso, has been working at this for year after year. So I wish him nothing but success, because he's trying to forge a new path where the dirty truth, and it is a dirty truth about some of the big tyre manufacturers of old, and I'm sure they're improving, much like all companies are trying to improve. There's a lot of legacy of horrendous pollutants and burning of old tyres, etc. So there's also the whole story here, which will be uncovered over the next few years, I suspect.
Why is it when you mentioned the dirty truth, Sarah smiled? Paul, did you have a comment?
No, I was just going to say that. Well, there was a sort of a general kind of. It was thrown out that electric vehicles, the tyres are worse on electric vehicles. It's not appearing to be so. The tyres are not getting replaced any quicker or any slower. And certainly from a brake dust point of view, to Sam's point, the brake dust is much less. Taxi drivers in London used to replace their brakes like 4 or 5 times a year, but are replacing them once on the LEVC, which is an electrified vehicle in the taxi world. So there's dramatic improvements, and tyres are not proving generally to wear much quicker than their diesel petrol counterparts.
Yeah, Paul, I also did some studies back in the day. Sorry, John. Some studies back in the day with some emissions testing on the emissions kit on the vehicle with some very clever university people. I can't remember which university it was now. But we learned even in the surrounding area of that electric vehicle, the air quality was better than the vehicle next door that was chugging out diesel. So there's all sorts of good data out there now showing that we're going in the right direction.
Brilliant.
Sorry, John.
Not at all, mate. And as if we haven't had enough of Paul Kirby already, let's do a van story. Fantastic. He's just fantastic, isn't he? 70% of van fleet drivers would prefer the electric version of their favoured van, whilst 14% are not aware if there even is an electric alternative. And battery electric vehicle van registrations increased by 53.5% in January compared to January 2022, and it's expected to grow 60.7% through 2023. New research from our partners, Churchill Expert, Direct Line Group's specialist fleet insurance provider, shows that there's a significant appetite for electric vans, with just 15% of van drivers preferring petrol or diesel-powered models once they've tried both. Now, that's really interesting. Sarah, we're doing lots of good work with Churchill and Direct Line Group. And it's fascinating that they are really, really focused on electric vehicles. It's adding something into the mix, isn't it? It's not just about insurance. This is about the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, quite. And I know you guys got to spend some time together, and I couldn't, sadly, because I was in Amsterdam. Very sad about that. But having heard from you about how diverse their questions were, really added heart to me to show me that that's a whole nother sector that was previously sort of not in our gang yet. So I think through them and their innovation and their interest and their passion, actually, we're going to be drawing a lot more people towards the EV community just through that ability to ask the right question. And they're industry leaders who are going to be looked towards to answer those questions from their customers, their consumers, their clients, and their partners. So for me, I'm really excited to be starting to see those questions come through. We want to tackle them head on. They're often myths that we'd like to bust. So yeah, really sad to miss that session, but can't wait to do more.
And we're finding that more and more, that there are people who are pretty clued up, who are asking tough questions at the moment. And it's right that you keep asking those tough questions. I know Sam, Paul, Sarah, we get them all day, every day. And all we can do is point people to the facts, to the evidence, not our opinion, but the evidence, to dispel myths and to move this agenda forward. If you've got any clean transport, PR or news stories you'd like us to cover, please send them to us at hello@evcafe.org. Until next Friday, it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from them. This has been an EV Cafe production. Brought to you this week by the AA, because yellow is not just for custard. Other sustainability news services are available, but this is just fire! The EV Cafe News is regulated by Big Stuart Interval, Sparky from My Energy, Tucker from the AA, installed by EV Civils, monitored by Geotab, and insured by Churchill. We are the EV Cafe, supporting the transition to clean transport. Until next Friday, goodbye.
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 How rude. What flavour is in